Like the first Ultima, King's Quest, and Final Fantasy, the original Legend of Zelda was a groundbreaker of its genre, that being the action-adventure game. It was released in 1986 as the Nintendo Entertainment System was making strides toward being the biggest game console of its time. The Legend of Zelda takes place in the mystical realm of Hyrule, which is kept at peace through the powers of the magical triangles called the Triforce. But then an evil Prince of Darkness named Ganon steals the Triforce of Power in order to conquer Hyrule. Princess Zelda then splits up and hides the Triforce of Wisdom so Ganon can't get it. This drives Ganon to imprison Zelda, but her nursemaid Impa finds a young boy named Link who vows to rescue her. In order to rescue Zelda, you need to find the 8 fragments of the Triforce that she scattered throughout the land. Your main weapon is a sword that you get from the first cave you see in the game, which you use to destroy the Octoroks, Tektites, and other monsters. But if your hearts are at full strength, you can blast monsters with your sword. Over time, you'll find more weapons and items like the candle, bombs, a magic shield that blocks more attacks than your old one, the blue ring that increases your defense, and heart containers that increase your life points. Some of these you buy with the rupees you get from beating monsters, while others you find hidden throughout the land. Get enough heart containers, and you can find and claim upgrades to your sword. The land was pretty vast for a 1980s game, and scattered throughout the overworld are caves that contain stores and hidden rewards that you find by bombing walls or burning down trees. Apparently, Hyrule doesn't have its own Smokey the Bear. It turns out not all the monsters are out to get you, and not all the humans are friendly to you. There are a lot of hidden moblin monsters that will actually give you money, while some caves contain cranky old men that make you pay for busting down their door. Yeah, they don't mess around with breaking and entering in this world. Eventually, you need to go down into the underworld labyrinths where the Triforce pieces are. The first 3 are easily accessible, and you can enter them in any order, although you probably should do them in the listed order. If you go into level 3 right from the start, you likely aren't going to last long. Most of the underworld monsters aren't that bad, but there are some that will frustrate you. The Dark Nuts will take at least 2 shots for much of the game, can't be hit from in front, and almost always turn to face you. And then there's the Wizrobes. Good God, the Wizrobes! They shoot out magic spells that only a magic shield can block. The blue ones will drive you to insanity with how much they move through everything and in every direction, and they usually pair up with like-likes that can eat your magic shield. Each labyrinth is a maze where you'll need to find ways to open passages by defeating monsters, pushing blocks, unlocking doors, and bombing walls. Then you need to find the treasures of the labyrinth, like the bow, boomerang, and magic wand, and eventually beat the boss monster. It can be really hard for some younger gamers to realize just how challenging this game was. Remember, this was back before the internet, where some yahoo could put up a full walkthrough 2 hours after a game was released. Your only methods of figuring out these labyrinth puzzles was trial and error, reading Nintendo Power or one of the official guides, or talking with someone who did one of the previous 2. And that's not counting that some of the labyrinths themselves are unreachable without items you find in previous dungeons, like the raft. This naturally was where the basics of all the games originated, particularly the puzzles to get through the dungeon rooms. I'm sure a lot of us know the basics now: kill off all the monsters, look for a block to push, or try to find a wall to bomb, but this game didn't have little details like cracks in the walls to tell you that's where to bomb, so you were really flying blind when you first played. Heck, having to go through 2 rooms full of blue Dark Nuts in level 5 just to get the whistle is still a challenge for me to this day. Oh yeah, the whistle. Even back then, music was a key part of this game. Okay, you only played 1 tune on it, and most of the time it only summoned a tornado that randomly sent you to a dungeon that you already completed, but it did have uses, like beating the boss Digdogger and finding hidden dungeons under ponds. So this was the first game to feature music-related puzzles. Speaking of puzzles, was I the only one who noticed that you can take the layouts of the dungeons and actually piece them together like a jigsaw puzzle? Yeah, even back in the early days of console gaming, the designers were creating Easter eggs like that. The boss monsters varied in difficulty. Aquamentus was a complete pansy, but I have to wonder how many people felt it was a great accomplishment to finally beat Gleeok. Really, I found that with almost all the bosses, playing defense will just lead to your eventual defeat. Once you get the Water of Life, keep it on standby and just go after the monster hacking away. Heck, the easiest boss may have actually been Goma in level 6. He can only be beaten by shooting an arrow in his eye, but if you arm the bow before you enter and shoot once you step through the door, it's very possible that you can kill him in 2 seconds. Ironic, considering that you had to go through all those damn whiz ropes to get to him. So once you have the complete Triforce, you make your way to Ganon's lair on Death Mountain, and good night was this a maze. You had to go through multiple secret passages in a precise order, or else you'd wander around forever and be worn down by all the monsters. You first need to find the red ring for more defense, and then the silver arrow, which you can't beat Ganon without. Meanwhile, you had to deal with new monsters you hadn't seen before. The land molas weren't a big problem since you can take them out from a distance with the wand, but good God, the Patras! Not only were they annoying the way they kept spinning around like that, but they're living eyeballs with wings! Some of these game designers have a twisted sense of humor! I should mention that when this game first came out, the game books did a great job in hiding Ganon's identity so that you didn't see him until you actually reached him. And when you did, holy crap! And after seeing this ugly pig-like monstrosity, he turns invisible and starts firing at you. Yeah, try fighting an enemy you can't see that's constantly shooting fireballs you can't stop. I don't know if there's a better strategy, but I just found it best to stay near the door and swing away until you eventually hit him. And you have to hit him 4 times with the sword, and then once with the silver arrow to take him out. So you beat Ganon and rescue Zelda, and your reward is another quest? Yeah, this game actually had another full, different, even more challenging quest after you win the first one. I don't think that's ever been done before or since. And yes, this one was a lot tougher, with enemies that throw weapons at you, hidden walls that you have to push through, old men that pretty much mug you by demanding money or a heart container, and stronger bosses in earlier dungeons. Actually, by the standards of how much tougher the first dungeons were, the later ones were actually a cakewalk when compared to their first quest counterparts. And your reward for completing the second quest? You get the exact same ending, only with the new final quote of, "You are great." Yeah, I'm over 29 years old, living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment, talking on the internet about old video games and TV shows. I really turned out great. By today's action-adventure and role-playing standards, the story of The Legend of Zelda may seem simple by comparison, but it laid the groundwork for the many more action-adventure games to come. Future Zelda games would give us more elaborate quests, exciting storylines, and the most convoluted timeline in video game history. But we'll get to that at a later date. In the meantime, we'll next take a look at the first of the few definite sequels of the series.